The Philippines gear up for election, social anxiety disorder in children on the rise, and social media named as a new challenge in the media world. Those are the headlines for tonight. Good evening, everyone. You're with me, Douglas Elliott, and this is TVS Nightline. We begin with our top story. The Philippines presidential candidates wrapped up their final election campaigns on Saturday to rally support and win over undecided voters. The election on Monday will see a fierce contest between Vice President Leni Robredo against frontrunner Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Hundreds of thousands of people gathered in the Philippines on Saturday, where the leading presidential candidates made a last-ditch attempt to sway undecided voters with patriotic, upbeat messages after a divisive election race. According to an opinion poll, Robredo will need a late surge or low turnout to win the presidency, with Marcos leading by over 30 percentage points and topping every poll this year. Marcos Bongbong Jr. is the son of the late dictator Ferdinand Marcos, who ruled the Philippines with an iron fist from 1965 to 1986, whereas Robredo is a human rights lawyer, an economist, and a staunch critic of President Rodrigo Duterte. A record-breaking turnout is expected on Monday, with over 65 million Filipinos eligible to cast their ballots. Monday's poll will be a rematch of the 2016 vice presidential election, which Marcos looked set to win before losing out by just 200,000 votes to Robredo. Votings for the president and vice president are held separately in the Philippines.
With a couple of hours to go before the polling stations open, Election Commission staff were seen removing thousands of candidates' banners that have been strung up on the streets of the capital. In the street, residents are expecting the new president to be elected tomorrow and will reinvigorate the country's economy and improve their livelihoods amid the pandemic.
It's Bongbong Marcos, and simply he has a lot of a lot of ideas on how to improve the economy and way of living in the Philippines.
There are 10 candidates running for the presidential election, including Bongbong Marcos, son of former Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos, the current Vice President of the Philippines, Leni Robredo, and the country's iconic boxer, Manny Pacquiao.
Well, for Leni, I'm expecting the same from her for this 2022 elections. I know that the next 6 years, she will do and she will deliver as she did as Vice President.
The upcoming elections will be the first to be held in the Southeast Asian country amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Over 65.8 million Filipinos will head to polling stations on May 9th to elect a new president, a new vice president, 12 of the 24-seat Senate, and members of the House of Representatives.
Back home, social anxiety disorder in children is on the rise following the movement control orders meant to curb the COVID-19 virus. Quoting the National Health and Morbidity Survey in 2019, Deputy Minister in the Premier of Sarawak's department, Dato Sharifah Hasira, said nearly 500,000 children in Malaysia experience bouts of mental health issues.
Because of the COVID-19, most of us, especially children, are locked in the house. Children around the world, 1 in 7 children are forced to stay at home for most part of 2020, and leading to them developing feelings of anxiety, depressions, and isolation.
According to UNICEF, children had constrained access to socialization, play, and even physical contact, which are critical for their psychosocial well-being and development. Some may even experience stress due to cramped living conditions, family financial pressure, family conflict, and so on. Therefore, Hasida said the government is now encouraging parents to bring their children out for socialization and develop social skills via face-to-face interactions. As children now return to face-to-face teaching and learning sessions, many are likely to be filled with anxiety, which will pose a challenge to teachers, parents, and the students themselves. Earlier, Hasida was met at the Sarawak Indian Women's Association Family Day at Borneo Cultures Museum on Sunday.
A platform for a monthly dialogue session regarding contemporary issues of Malaysia has been proposed during the Pawata Journalism Seminar and Workshop 2022 on Sunday at the Borneo Convention Centre, Kuching, with a hope to increase the knowledge of the public with in-depth conversations in regards to major encounters.
These dialogue sessions would include veteran journalists and other experts to speak into these matters. Toman Mamora, a communication and research consultant, said that he also hopes these dialogue sessions will be able to help younger journalists in expanding their pool of knowledge in the industry.
That's why I mentioned that you've got to create a pool of knowledge, and one way to doing that would be to gather the senior journalists who may be retired to be engaged in a monthly forum online where they talk, they engage in discourse on a particular subject that is topical to the present day situation. And in so doing, they'll be able to they themselves will be going through a learning experience. So you can actually observe the learning curve. The learning curve will broaden their strength, their confidence, their knowledge, and in the process they'll be able to pass on that information to journalists down the line.
The theme for the seminar was the meeting of minds. How can we move forward in the newspaper industry and journalism in Sarawak? Many issues like the success and failures and the greatest challenge of media industries were discussed with a panelist of 5 veteran journalists. Meanwhile, Pawata is a non-governmental organization NGO set up for freelance journalists in Kuching to provide an avenue for the members to have a platform to continue to contribute to the well-being of the society and to look after the welfare of freelance journalists.
The public may not have realized the hardships media companies are facing due to the unpredictable changes in the world. Among all of it, according to Toman Mamora, a communication and research consultant, the greatest challenge of all is social media.
According to statistics obtained from Statista, there has been a decline in the number of people actually reading newspapers from 38.1 million in 2012 to 20.7 million in 2018.
Decline in readership in Malaysia. I don't have the statistic for the world, but in Malaysia there's a decline. Decline will continue, but the newspapers will not be wiped out completely. They will be around, but it will not be able to assume that strong presence and character as it used to be, maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
As social media emerges and builds its place in the world, it has overtaken the importance of conventional news outlets like newspapers or television. Malaysia ranks number 6 in the amount of time spent on social networking with an average of 2.8 hours daily, as compared to Japan, which only spends 0.3 hours on average in a day. Whereas the Philippines ranks number 1 with an average of 3.42 hours daily. Additionally, only 3% of the total population in Malaysia spends time watching television from January to April 2020.
Because I cannot beat the social media. Because social media has got the power of instantaneity, immediacy. Immediacy is a very strong asset of social media, whereas newspapers, no. You got to go through the process. The only thing that you can do is to compress the process, but still you got to send it to the print. You got to wait for the following day.
Meanwhile, Mamora advised conventional media companies to be open and flexible and find a different approach to adapt to the culture in Malaysia.
As I was saying, the print media first and foremost must be agile and must be willing and must be able. These are the key words. They must be agile, they must be willing, they must be able to respond and to adjust to the changing times.
Sound bites, live reportings, and sound effects are ways he advised conventional media companies to look into, therefore bridging the gap between the traditional and digital ways.
Conventional media must therefore reinvent itself, which means it must take a look at its operating framework. Meaning, it must broaden its scope to include within its operating framework things like hyperlinks, sound bites, live reporting from the site. Because in the newspaper, you can only carry a story maybe about 300 words. But the detail, the sound effect, the voice, the visual, you can click to do a hyperlink. And this is one way. So in other words, you don't lose out completely in terms of getting the instantaneity of the reporting on the ground.
With the ever-changing technology advancements, social media has made a huge impact to many lives, whether young or old, therefore posing a question to news industries on what they could do to meet the needs of the people. My name is Moika Shimizu with videographer Zaim for TVS.
Right up after the break, Noorderbira wins gold at the 31st SEA Games and Hong Kong elects its new leader. Right here on TVS. Stay tuned. Welcome back. The Sarawak Road Transport Department inspected a total of 5,364 vehicles and issued 866 summonses during the Ops Hari Raya Aidilfitri 2022, which began on April 29 and ended today.
RTD Senior Enforcement Director Dato' Lokman Jama'an said among the actions taken during OPSHRA 2022 in the state included patrols along major state roads, special motorcycle operations, check at depots and bus terminals, and various other activities. He said there were 5 main traffic offences subject to stern action during the operation in Sarawak, namely overtaking at double lines, queue jumping, driving on the emergency lane, beating the red light and using handphones while driving.
Inilah kita punya keberhasilan pada ketika ini, kita memeriksa semua kenderaan-kenderaan ya, daripada 29 April yang lepas. Kita telah pun membuat pemeriksaan di terminal-terminal bas dan juga di depo-depo bas. Untuk makluman semua, di Sarawak ini kita telah pun membuat pemeriksaan kenderaan yang diperiksa ya. Untuk bas-bas saja sebanyak 6 depo telah diperiksa. Terminal bas yang diperiksa 6 buah terminal bas dan jumlah bas yang diperiksa sehingga setakat ini adalah 116 buah bas. Dan dalam pemeriksaan yang kami jalankan, kami dapati terbaik setakat ini. Tayar-tayarnya mengikut spesifikasi yang telah ditetapkan. Pegawai-pegawai JPJ di Sarawak saya lihat telah bertukar lumuslah memeriksa kenderaan-kenderaan ini. Semua kenderaan-kenderaan diperiksa, basnya, breknya, reflektornya dan juga telah memberi advokasi kepada pemandu-pemandu dan pengusaha bas. Selain itu juga kami juga telah meletakkan pegawai-pegawai kami di dalam bas-bas berkenaan bagi melihat sama ada pemandu-pemandu bas yang memandu bas untuk ke destinasi masing-masing mematuhi peraturan-peraturan yang telah kita tetapkan.
He said this at a press conference on the Sarawak Level HRA 2022 OPS report at the Kuching Central Bus Terminal here today. During the OPS HRA 2022, which ended today, Lokman said they have so far inspected 116 buses at 6 depots and 6 bus terminals in the state. 2 buses were issued with inspection notices and were not allowed to be used after both vehicles failed to follow the set specifications. Lokman said the Sarawak RTD had also detained 18 vehicles and heavy machinery that were not supposed to be on the road during the festive season.
Prime Minister Dato Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob will lead the Malaysian delegation to the ASEAN-US Special Summit in Washington, D.C. from May 12 to 13.
Foreign Minister Dato Sri Saifuddin Abdullah said International Trade and Industry Minister Dato Sri Muhammad Azmin Ali and Human Resources Minister Dato Sri M. Saravanan will also accompany the Prime Minister to the special summit. The conference will begin with a series of meetings on May 12, with the summit being held at 3 p.m. on May 13, when President Joe Biden will meet with the ASEAN heads of government. According to Saifuddin, the Prime Minister is expected to raise several regional issues such as Myanmar and other international issues at the meeting. Apart from Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte and Myanmar Junta Chief Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, all other 8 heads of government of ASEAN countries will participate in the special summit. Duterte is unable to attend because of the elections in the country, while Hlaing was not invited following the country's internal political turmoil. The last time the United States hosted the special summit was in February 2016 in Sunnylands, California. According to the ASEAN website, the U.S. remains an important trading partner of ASEAN, with the total two-way trade in 2020 reaching $308.3 billion, making it the second largest trading partner of ASEAN among dialogue partners.
Malaysia remains non-aligned and does not recognize any unilateral sanction on any country unless the resolution for the sanctions was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly. Foreign Minister Dato Sri Saifuddin Abdullah said this has always been Malaysia's stand and principle on the matter. Saifuddin was commenting on the wide-ranging international sanctions imposed by the West and its allies on Russia, following Russia's ongoing war with Ukraine. On the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Saifuddin said Malaysia has maintained its stand on non-alignment to any side involved, but at the same time has never condoned any aggression by any country that threatened the sovereignty of another country. Commenting further on the impact of economic sanctions on Malaysians, especially students studying in Russia, he said for now, their welfare and safety are taken care of, adding that Malaysians in Russia can still make financial transactions through the UnionPay service, although the services are limited to only 3 banks so far. He said the Foreign Ministry is closely monitoring the situation and it is constantly receiving feedback on the latest developments on the impact of the Russia-Ukraine conflict from the Ministry of International Trade and Industry. So far, there are 816 Malaysians in Russia, which comprise of 779 students and 37 expatriates. In sports development, national diver Nur Dabira Sabri put on a sterling performance in the final of the women's 1-meter springboard individual to become the first athlete to present Malaysia with her first gold medal in the 31st SEA Games at the Maidin Aquatic Centre in Hanoi on Sunday.
This is also the first gold medal on offer at the Biennial Games before the official opening ceremony is held on Thursday, May 12. Noor Dabita, who had won 4 gold medals in her previous SEA Games outings, added one more to her collection after accumulating 290.45 points from 5 dives. It was a memorable start for Malaysia when Kimberly Bong Chen Ping grabbed the silver medal with 230 points. Host Vietnam's Ngo Phong Mai settled for bronze with 224 points. Noor Dabita can bag her 6th gold medal when she competes in the 10-meter platform synchronized with diving queen Dato' Pandalela Rinong Ram on Wednesday, May 11 at the same venue.
You're watching TVS Nightline. Joyous reunions and moments among parents and children across the country mark a special Mother's Day celebration today, as families can be relieved of the restrictions held by the COVID-19 pandemic. This time, many are glad to be home and be with their loved mothers. The day also commemorates the sacrifices of mothers as well as mother figures worldwide.
Sabahan Anna Maria Wong, she agrees that this year's celebration will be celebrated differently. As the transition to the endemic phase shifts her family into a more lively celebration outdoors.
This year Mother's Day gonna be different. We're not gonna celebrate it at home, and because it's fall on Sunday, first thing first, we are going to church as a family, and we're going out to have meals, and we will go to the beach to celebrate. Mother's Day means a lot to me, and I believe it means something to my mom because it is the only day she would intentionally take a day off, spend time with her daughters, sons, and other family members, because I believe she wants to be celebrated as well. Selamat Hari Ibu. Matur suwun wis kekno aku panganan, jaga aku, jadino aku sak gede iki, saiki wis jadi masuk uni. Matur suwun, jaga diri, makannya sengake, ojo banyak pikir. Aku sayang mama.
University Malaysia Sarawak student Meliana Marlini will be celebrating with not only one but 2 mothers in her household, as her sister is also a mother of 1.
Happy Mother's Day to all mothers around the world, especially to my mom Ernie and my sister Melissa. We wish you all happiness, prosperity, and good health. Happy Mother's Day! We love you so much! Happy Mother's Day!
Local favorite deaf celebrity Bobo and friends conveyed a special tribute on this special day.
Hong Kong's former security chief John Lee was officially elected as the new leader of the island on Sunday. Lee, who succeeded outgoing leader Carrie Lam, was endorsed by a committee of pro-Beijing loyalists in a bid to relaunch itself after several years of political turmoil.
Lee received the votes of 1,416 members of a pro-Beijing election committee on Sunday morning, granting him the majority required to anoint him as Hong Kong's next leader. Only 8 voted not in favor of him.
無論係支持我定係唔支持我，我都衷心感謝，因為你哋今日係支持咗行政長官選舉嘅投票日。
Lee said it is his mission to lead a new chapter for Hong Kong, while pledging to unite the city and preserve Hong Kong's international status as an open and more competitive financial hub. Lee will assume office on July 1st, the 25th anniversary of Hong Kong's handover to China from Britain. However, few of the city's 7.4 million people have any say in choosing their leader, with some expressing mixed feelings over the appointment.
都唔使選啦，已經定咗啦嘛，內定啊嘛，有選到咩？都冇完全冇任何拉票，冇任何尾，已經內定咗，已經係咁樣做咗噶啦，係啊，期望都冇咩，希望個經濟真係會好翻啲咯，係啊，即係都知道大家都好多地方好多人都係啦，冇嘢做啊，或者係都幾困難咁。
Another resident believed that the new administration will implement tougher policies under a national security law.
應該就冇乜啦，係啦，只會可能佢推行啲政策上面會更加強硬咯，係啦，我自己個人覺得係啦，所以我哋只可以去迎合咯。
And that's all the time we have for TVS Nightline. For more headlines, head to our website at TVSTVMY or follow us on our social media. Here with me, Douglas Elliott. Thank you for watching.
Anaknya